Well, I can recall years ago when my father, he was kind of a film historian and he knew a lot of other film historians. One of them was Robert Schweitzer, who had married Marilyn Monroe. In his house, I remember my father said about his home that his house was adorned with Marilyn Monroe memorabilia. And there is another, he was a casting director, and he was also a person who really loved Hollywood memorabilia. And I'm not going to mention his name, but when he died, they found, memorabilia all over the house. He had collected so much memorabilia that it was actually in the bathtub. He had bathtubs, a bathtub filled with paperwork of pictures of famous people. And this is a thing of myopic love or myopic obsession with the memorabilia. My father had gotten not that bad, but he had a lot of memorabilia that was really a waste of paper, and you stop kind of living when you obsess about such things. I'm just turning on my printer for whatever reason. It was off, so I decided to turn it on. It's going to make this noise, so sorry about that. Boy, I'm listening to it now, and I wish I hadn't turned it on at this particular time, but I did. Oh my heavens, it's still going. It's still going, folks. So bear with me. That's it. Okay, I think it's done. I think it's done now. But this is something that I'm just stating off the cuff, and I I had myopic love when I was young. I had certainly had crushes on girls that didn't know that I existed, and I couldn't see beyond my own, my own obsession, and I, didn't go for people who were more in my league and thought of me. I was into this romantic thing of unrequited love, and I thought maybe I can win these people's hearts, which is kind of a waste of time. And I'm thinking it's good to be active in things like, if you're active in sports or active in even in politics, which a lot of people right now are very active in. But it's always good to see the other side of things, particularly in politics. Um, it is very difficult and very hard for me seeing things the way they are, and being somewhat, moderate and right leaning a little bit, uh, seeing hypocrisy and people shutting down debate and people being violent. And like I said, there are on both sides individuals that have what I believe to be just outrageous beliefs and crazy, kooky beliefs. And they cannot see, I don't want to say they can't see the forest through the trees, but I guess they can't. And it's really hard right now for what I want to get to what I see within social media and the way in which they choose to censor. Uh, it certainly is, it feels hypocritical, and it's hard for me not to have resentment and animosity. I know that intellectually, I know that it's wrong, but on an emotional level, it is extraordinarily hard for me to see companies that basically, what I see is companies affecting policy, and companies, social media companies, basically allowing groups that get violent not be punished. And a group on one side, the conservative side, they get violent one time and maybe was one of the worst, but everyone gets painted with that brush of violent extremism, when on the other side, not so much, and they've committed far more acts of violence, and if they could have gotten away with it, would have done much more damage. And at this point, there's not a lot of clarity and common sense out there. And I just wanted to mention again, there were things that I disagreed with on both sides. One of the things that kind of bothered me was on the right side, was the fact that they talked about the Biden's 1994 crime bill, and that is something that did have bipartisan support and had a lot of support from different sectors of the country at that time. And it's really things you'd think that in the in this information age, we'd be able to decipher truth from lies. And I don't think that the people who run these social media companies, I think they think they're doing something like that, but they're not, with their censorship and with their one-sided censorship. It doesn't feel like it. I could be certainly wrong, but it feels like they're censoring one side of the extremist, and then they're painting the brush of everyone else as an extremist as well. And that's a difficult thing for me to deal with. And I'm just I'm right now struggling with my animosity, and probably, like I said, perhaps on an intellectual side, I believe it's wrong, but on an emotional side, I'm there to protect myself. And anytime someone is hypocritical with you, they're not, you feel like they're not going to necessarily do you right or be fair by you. And this goes back to many people's childhood. I think many people can, have experienced, whether it be in their childhood or their adulthood, whether it be at work or at play, have experienced some form of hypocrisy. And I think by nature, that should inform you that this person is being unfair to you. And how you deal with that unfairness, that's a question. I mean, people throughout history have dealt with unfairness and unjust behavior. And at this time, I kind of feel that in the country that I live in, this has been about the most unfair and unjust thing that I've ever experienced. But like I said, when I look all over the world, if I were a woman in Saudi Arabia or a woman in certain parts of the country where I wouldn't be allowed to drive and I was essentially property to my husband, I certainly would feel, a far bigger level of oppression. And there are certainly people who have it far worse than I've ever had it right now. And yeah, so, I got to kind of put things into perspective. And hopefully, hopefully there will be people that are willing to listen and willing to hear what you have to say. And then again, it may not happen, but it is hurtful when people who affect policy don't want to hear from you and don't want to be upfront and honest with you. And that's the difficulty that I have. But this has happened throughout history, and it happens even worse in other countries where you are a complete property, where people are complete property, are treated as property. There are people in the third world that are very mistreated. So we have to look at all things. Hopefully we rise to or a level, we are a nation of liberty, and we're a nation of justice, and we're a nation of law. And I know I'm kind of rambling, but that's kind of where I hope to get. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I know this was kind of a rambling video, and I hope people kind of like it. And Darren, I do wish to have a conversation. You posted something on my thing. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, because blind love and blind hate are not good things to have. I think you should have love. After a certain age, you should have your eyes open. And this is just me personally. I love is something I give to somebody who earns that, and I have to earn their love. It's a win-win situation. I don't necessarily believe in loving my enemies. I don't believe in praying for those who persecute me. That's not my way. I don't think that for me is not intelligent, and it's not preserving my life. And if I had children, it wouldn't necessarily preserve my children's life. Sometimes you have to flee those who persecute you, and you have to be aware of those who persecute you. So there should be some intelligence there. And there's my answering machine, my copy machine going again. I apologize, folks. This is and it's really shaking it up. And with that being said, hey, like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. And hey, I got about 8 dislikes on my last show. And I would personally love, if you would leave a comment and tell me if you dislike my show and you put a thumbs down. I'd love to hear why, because, it's either true or untrue. And if it's true, I'd like to improve. Anyway, thanks for listening. And like I said, like and subscribe, and, leave a comment down below. And if you really like it, share it. Thank you.